Good morning, Bridge Church. My name's Libby, and it's my pleasure to bring you a devotion this morning. This year, has there ever been a moment when you've been stuck inside, self-isolating, or perhaps it was during one of the lockdowns where you just felt a little bit frustrated? I know for me there have been. This week I'm self-isolating, not because I have COVID or anything, but because I was a close contact of someone. There's a few stories that keep coming back to mind to me when I'm having to isolate or stay inside. And one of them is the story of Noah. So I'm just going to read to us from Genesis chapter 7. I'm going to start at verse 6. And it says this: Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days the flood waters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, all the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. As I was reading that, I really felt like my 9 days of self-isolation mean absolutely nothing compared to what Noah had to go through. But it's incredible in this story what keeps Noah focused, what is his goal. And in the midst of him having to self-isolate, and not only self-isolate, he had to be on a boat with loads of smelly animals for 40 days and 40 nights, knowing that everyone else in the world was drowning around him. That's a horrific picture. The one thing that was keeping him in focus was the fact that God had made promises to him. God had promised him that there would be life after the flood. That even in the midst of the isolation, in the midst of the difficulties and the sorrow that him and his family were feeling, there was the promise of God afterwards. And it's incredible that in those moments, it says in Genesis 8 that God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and all of the livestock that were with him. And it really is incredible because God says to him in chapter 8, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Let everyone out, let all the animals out so that they can be fruitful and multiply." And God makes a promise in the midst of that as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. And I just want to encourage us that in the midst of a time that can feel barren, in the midst of a time that can feel frustrating, in the midst of a time where we're feeling grief and loss, that God has spoken promises over us, and God will keep his promises will come to pass. So I want to encourage you today, maybe take 5 minutes this morning to write down the things that you know God has promised over you. And it might feel that in this time that those promises have been lost, but if God's said something, it will happen. It just might not be in the timing you expect. So write those things down, remind yourself of what God said over you, and look forward to the day where there'll be a rainbow shining over us, where there'll be an end to the season, and we'll be able to look forward to all that God has in store for the future. Have a blessed day, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.